Hello, I'm Michael, and this is Tarot by the Tree. We're discussing the minor arcana, and we've moved on to the fourth suit. Jocelyn is here behind the scenes, and she'll ask some questions. We've gone through three of the suits now, and we're entering our fourth suit. These are the four things that the tarot cards believe are essential to the development of human beings. And we'll just do a brief recap of the suits. In staffs, we have that as our enterprise and our plans. And the trick to the staffs is having your ideas and plans become apparent in reality. That's the trick. Cups also have a bit of a trick. They talk about joy and happiness, but there is a kind of a lasting happiness that builds, and that's juxtaposed with inebriation, very temporary happiness. So cups is the suit of happiness, but it is not the suit of temporary ecstasy. Coins also have that caveat implied, where it is not about getting rich or wealthy or competing with the Jones. It is the idea of the relative wealth necessary to give you a degree of freedom to take a day off, sometimes to do what you want, other times to be able to keep yourself fed and warm and housed without having to rely on other people. That's the recap. And today we enter into the suit of swords, which I've left till last because it has a two-edged side to it, or a two-edged aspect to it. Swords mean power. Power is a form of strength. Beauty is also a form of power, but this is the kind of power that we think of. It can be personal power, but this is the kind of power that can also change the environment around you. It's two-edged because we'll see as we move through the cards of the suit of swords that the use of power always inflicts a little bit of damage on the user. This is the new suit, swords. It's power. It's a kind of strength that can be personal. Power, as a definition, it's something like the ability to affect the reality beyond yourself. So power isn't imaginary. Power isn't believing that you can control things. Power is the ability to affect the reality beyond yourself. Power does not have to be used. It does not have to be demonstrated. Like strength, we learned in the card strength that and the sun card that total strength does not need to be demonstrated. In fact, if you had great strength, you wouldn't demonstrate it. You would blend in with the other people. And as I've said several times, the swords are two-edged and they will always cut you a bit whenever used. In a sense, there are two aspects of power, and that's what we're into now, this suit, power. We have to understand what it means, and it's not being able to bench lift something more than somebody else, because that would be strength. This is power. And there are two aspects of power that we'll just look at quickly. One, power gives you the ability to say no. Power is the fact that you cannot be forced. Power also gives you the ability to say yes, because you can't be denied. That's a form of power as well, personal power. The second thing is the ability to intentionally change systems outside of you. And that is, that's a very attractive thing to possess, this kind of power. And it can be a heady experience to some, and it can be a devastating experience to others. The ability to intentionally change systems outside you. That could be your job. You have the ability to make some difference in your job. It could be your garden. You can actually change the system outside of your body. It could be your activities too. We'll move into what is an ace. And I know we've discussed this 3 times previously in the other suit, but we'll take a look. Aces participate in the Sephira Keter. Keter is the top of the 2 trees and contains everything that's possible. This all exists in the ether, so to speak, in your imagination, in potential. Keter is reality in suspension, existing in imagination. It is the beginning of a suit that will become manifest in your life. The ace of anything in a personal reading about you means that aspect of your life has the potential to become relatively powerful, to start to grow. In this case, drawing the Ace of Swords means that you are becoming strong in one area of your life. Power, like beauty, is a force. Having personal power means you are less controlled by others. In a certain sphere, you are becoming unassailable, and you are respected for that. When we're trying to understand power and we look at force, force is also the ability to enact a kind of destruction. And that's something that we'll learn. There's a responsibility to having power, which is different than having happiness. Power can hurt others if you choose. Go to a description of the card now. A white hand emerges from a gray cloud on the left-hand side of the card. A silver sword is held upright by the hand. The point of the blade is encircled by a golden crown, from which 6 yods or droplets of divine energy fall down towards the hilt of the sword. Below is a range of bare, dark mountains. All the aces have a very similar aspect that way, with the cloud, the emerging hand, holding the symbol of the suit. It's the beginning of that suit's active energy becoming apparent in you. In a reading, I would say something like this. Something is changing, developing, and growing in your life. This something is an aspect of personal strength. You are also developing a kind of power that can affect the lives of some other people. Having this force protects you. Using this force will likely be successful, but you will cause some pain or anguish in yourself. And that's, in a nutshell, what the Suit of Swords offers. Personal power that, when expressed on the environment, results in a little personal injury. There are traps that will attract you to use your new power, and we all fall under this as human nature. Some of the traps, once we get power, we're all susceptible to using it in ways that will make more problems for you later on. If you're powerful and you're angry, it is almost irresistible to lash out in some way. I mean, you're powerful. Demonstrating your power often gets you praise. And more than anything else, it just feels good. We're all oppressed in some way, and the ability to use power makes us feel free. If you have power, you sometimes want to protect other people. You see yourself as kind of an avenging angel, and coming to the aid of someone else a little too harshly is also an abuse or use of newfound power. And finally, the thing that seems to motivate most movies and a lot of our heroic themes is vengeance, the idea of getting back under the guise of justice or karma. All of this to say that the gaining of power is fraught with many traps, because it is almost irresistible for us to express this new power because we've always felt a little downtrodden before. The best use of this power is internal. You use this internal power to push away those feelings of anger, false protection, and vengeance. There's a saying that power corrupts. Absolute power corrupts absolutely. And we've seen this expressed in the tarot cards before. The Emperor, the King of Kings, a high-ranking card, does degenerate into the devil. Now, this is not the Christian devil. We've talked about this a lot. This is the Emperor becomes bedeviled. His joys change. The things that make him happy become a little bit twisted. That's what happens with power corrupting. It brings out the worst things in us, in a sense. The best use of power is internal, and we push away, as I've said, anger, false protection, and vengeance. Maybe you already have power in some areas, and I would think most of us do. And you can look at your environment, any progeny, your work and friends and things like that. We ask ourselves, does our power let us stand our ground? And that's what power first does. We aren't going to be swept away. The second question is, does your power encourage you to lash out? I think we all feel a little bit like avenging angels once we get power, and it's our job to make the world a better place. Of course, that's just an imaginative idea, and it's a bit of us getting too full of ourselves with the acquisition of power. Why don't we turn to Jocelyn and some of the questions now?
What does the golden crown mean with its overflowing green vines?
Oh, I think that's two questions in one. The crown is a symbol of monarchy. There's a certain rising to the highest level of queen or king when you have power. And this is almost sanctifying power. And power is one of the four things tarot talks about. And it is heralded here as something important. And if you want to use the word divine, you can, because we see the yards falling. The greenery is that power gives you the ability to continue things, develop things, and grow things. Of course, power can be constructive or destructive, and destructive power, in a sense, is the greatest power because it takes less time to destroy than to build.
Could you elaborate on the hand coming out of the cloud on the left?
Yeah, all the cards start like this. Coming out of the left is the side of severity. This hand emerges with new power, wanting to use that power. And severity likes to restrict. It likes to keep new things from coming in, to sterilize, to keep bad things from coming in. So the idea here that this is not just going to be an affectation or a badge. This is an ability. And the ability is to disrupt some things if that's what the person decides.
Doesn't everyone want more power?
We all want more power. And if we all had unlimited power, the world would be very twisty, turny, going this way and that way. We all want power. Nobody would ever say no to power unless it came attached to the kind of fame that makes living unbearable. But power, like joy, like ideas, is something we all want more of.
We touched on this one a bit. Is power the same as strength?
Not really. I think I put a note about that. Power is often what you can exert outside yourself, where strength is what's in yourself. Now, of course, we can switch these two, we can play with semantics and things like that. But strength is your ability to do something, where power is your ability to change something outside of yourself.
Why do you say that use of power always causes some pain?
Well, it just does. And in the tarot cards, we'll see that that follows. This is one of the rule. And even in our own lives, when we feel a bit of power and we use it, we often go home or wake up at night and saying, did I have to hurt that person that way? Could I have done it another way?
What good is having power if you don't use it?
It gives you the ability to stand your ground, to go your own way, to be respected and admired. Power, when used internally, uh, improves all of us, and it also gives us that safeguard ability to change our environment if we have to.
Is having power better than not having power?
Absolutely, and we all know what not having power is like. We're all children. We've all gone through difficult times. We've all been surrounded by calamity that we can't make better. Um, just give me that again. I'm sorry.
Is having power better than
Oh,
not
yeah.
having?
And we all know what not having power, as in the last question. Power is an insatiable need in us, and if we can just score a modicum of it, it can improve our lives as long as we use it for internal development and we don't have that irresistible urge to lash out.
What do I do if I get the Ace of Swords in a reading?
The Ace of Swords means look in your life at areas where you have some control. The Ace of Swords says something that's already there is starting to grow roots. There are parts in everybody's life where you exert some power, even if it's tidying your house, growing your garden, taking care of your children, or helping somebody who's old or infirmed. We all have aspects of power that can reach outside ourselves.
Can you give an everyday example of how power corrupts?
Yeah, I was thinking, you're in a committee, and this committee has worked for years. And like all committees, there's this one really irritating person on it. But we deal with their personality and things get done. It becomes almost like a family where there are irritating people, but they're part of the texture that makes this family. Somebody might gain power, and then at the next meeting, this irritating person speaks out, and the person with power says, all right, I've had enough. Get out of here. We're going to continue on our own. That night you go home and you realize you really didn't get any more done without that person than with. That person has been sort of degraded in front of all their peers. And you feel that you really didn't accomplish much more than being able to express your anger in a way that nobody else could argue with. So that's my example. When we first get power, very often it's intoxicating.
Final thoughts.
Oh, final thought is recognize that you can hurt or force change. And this can be a new awakening as we get older and get more independent and get more skilled. We can hurt or force change, but don't do it. Power allows you to insist on being the best you can. That's using the power. Now, of course, my very final thought is power is used in all kinds of situations for good reasons, and it still cuts the user. And as we move through the cards, we'll explore all the different archetypes of power use. Thank you for tuning in, and we'll see you again soon. Bye for now.